They finally opened it. After decades of speculation, denials, and cover-ups, scientists breached the sealed chambers of the Durupanar site in Turkey, and what emerged from beneath the earth has left the research team speechless. Inside, they found metal alloys that shouldn't exist in the Bronze Age, timber beams 3 feet thick, preserved for nearly 5,000 years, a drainage system engineered with hydraulic precision that wouldn't be understood for millennia. And in a sealed chamber at the heart of the structure, human remains from bloodlines spanning continents and stone tablets containing warnings about the end of civilizations. This isn't just Noah's Ark. This is evidence that humanity has been wiped out and restarted before. And the ancient builders knew it was coming. Hit that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to see will shake everything you thought you knew about human history. The Durupanar site, named after the Turkish army captain who first spotted it during an aerial survey in 1959, has always been controversial. Satellite imagery showed a distinct boat-shaped outline carved into the mountainside with raised edges resembling a ship's hull and a pointed bow facing downhill. The dimensions were unnervingly precise, 515 feet long and 85 feet wide, matching the biblical cubit measurements described in Genesis for Noah's Ark. For decades, geologists argued it was nothing more than a natural rock formation created by ancient mudflows and tectonic activity. But recent advances in ground-penetrating radar told a different story. When an international team of researchers conducted comprehensive scans of the site, they discovered something that natural geology couldn't explain. Regular repeating structures buried beneath the surface, arranged in parallel lines that ran the entire length of the formation. The patterns suggested internal compartments, chambers separated by walls of densified material that showed signs of deliberate construction. Even more intriguing, the walls contained iron concentrations far higher than the surrounding rock, forming linear features that appeared to be reinforcements. These weren't random mineral deposits. They were organized, engineered, placed with purpose. When core samples were extracted from various points across the site, laboratory analysis revealed petrified wood fragments embedded within the rock matrix. Organic material, preserved for millennia, mixed with metal rivets made from an alloy of iron and manganese. The rivets showed clear signs of manufacturing, hammer marks, uniform sizing, and a metallurgical composition that indicated advanced smelting techniques. Radiocarbon dating of the organic samples returned results that aligned with ancient flood narratives, approximately 4,800 years old, placing the structure's creation in the period between 3000 to 2500 BCE. This was the same time frame referenced in Mesopotamian flood tablets, Egyptian dynastic records, and biblical chronology. The convergence was impossible to ignore. With approval from Turkish authorities, the team began a careful excavation, removing layers of sediment that had accumulated over thousands of years. As they dug deeper, the evidence became more compelling. They uncovered large, petrified timber beams arranged in a grid pattern, suggesting a sophisticated internal framework designed to distribute weight and provide structural integrity. The timber species were identified as oak, pine, and cypress, all woods known for their strength and resistance to decay, exactly what ancient shipbuilders would have chosen for a massive vessel. But the size of these beams was extraordinary. Some measured over 3 feet in diameter, requiring trees that would have been hundreds of years old. The ancient builders had access to old-growth forests and possessed the tools and knowledge to fell, transport, and shape timber on a monumental scale. Between the beams, researchers found evidence of pitch and bitumen, natural sealants used in ancient shipbuilding to make vessels watertight. Chemical analysis of the residue showed it had been heated and refined, a process that improved its waterproofing properties. The application was thorough and professional, coating every seam and joint with multiple layers. As excavation continued, metal detectors revealed hundreds of metal objects scattered throughout the site. Most were corroded beyond recognition, but some retained enough structure to identify. Brackets, fasteners, and what appeared to be large anchor stones with rope holes drilled through them. The anchor stones weighed several tons each and showed drag marks consistent with use in marine environments. One of the most significant discoveries came from the center of the formation. Buried beneath 15 feet of hardened sediment, the team uncovered a chamber, a hollow space approximately 20 feet long and 12 feet wide, with walls made of mortared stone. The masonry work was sophisticated, with stones cut to fit together precisely, and the mortar contained a lime-based mixture that had hardened to near-concrete strength over the millennia. Inside this chamber, they found pottery shards, animal bones, and what appeared to be storage vessels, large clay jars designed to hold grain or liquids. The pottery styles didn't match any known regional culture of the period, suggesting the builders came from elsewhere or represented a civilization lost to history. The animal bones included species from various climates and regions: cattle, sheep, goats, and birds, exactly what you'd expect on a vessel designed to preserve breeding pairs. The deeper the team excavated, the more the evidence pointed to advanced engineering. Beneath the main deck level, they discovered what appeared to be a drainage system, channels carved into stone that directed water away from the internal compartments. The channels were angled precisely to maximize flow, demonstrating an understanding of hydraulics that shouldn't have existed in the Bronze Age. The compartmentalization of the structure was equally impressive. Ground-penetrating radar mapped at least 13 distinct chambers running the length of the vessel, separated by walls approximately 18 inches thick. The regularity of the spacing suggested careful planning and mathematical precision. Each compartment appeared to have been designed for a specific purpose, some larger for livestock, others smaller for supplies and living quarters. What truly baffled researchers was the discovery of a substance coating some of the interior walls. Chemical analysis identified it as a polymer-based material with properties similar to modern epoxy resin. But this wasn't a natural substance. It had been synthesized, combining tree resins with mineral additives to create a waterproof, durable coating. The knowledge required to produce such a material was supposedly beyond ancient capabilities. Metal samples from the site revealed another impossibility. The iron rivets and brackets contained trace elements of titanium and aluminum, metals that shouldn't appear in Bronze Age metallurgy. The presence of these elements suggested the builders had access to ores from multiple sources and possessed refining techniques that could extract and combine different metals to create stronger alloys. Perhaps most disturbing was the discovery of what appeared to be a ventilation system. Near the upper levels of the structure, researchers found rectangular openings that led to vertical shafts extending downward into the lower chambers. The shafts were positioned to create natural air circulation, drawing fresh air in from above and allowing stale air to escape. The engineering principles behind this system wouldn't be formally documented until the Renaissance, yet here they were, implemented thousands of years earlier. As excavation reached the deepest accessible levels, the team made a discovery that transformed the investigation from archaeological curiosity to something far more significant. Buried beneath the keel of the structure, they found a layer of sedimentary rock, unlike anything in the surrounding geology. This sediment contained marine microfossils, tiny organisms that only live in ocean environments. The presence of oceanic organisms at 6,500 feet elevation in the middle of a mountain range had only one explanation. These mountains had once been underwater. Geological surveys confirmed that the entire region showed signs of catastrophic flooding on a scale that defied normal river or lake overflow. The sediment layer was thick, over 30 feet in some places, suggesting the water had been present for an extended period, not just a brief flood. Dating of the microfossils placed the flooding event at approximately 5,000 years ago, aligning perfectly with the age of the timber structure above it. The vessel hadn't been built on a mountain. It had come to rest on a mountain after the waters receded. Core samples taken from the surrounding area told a story of violence. The rock layers showed evidence of rapid deposition. Materials from different elevations and geological periods mixed chaotically together, as if a massive force had churned up the earth and deposited everything simultaneously. This wasn't gradual erosion. It was catastrophic displacement. Geologists identified tsunami markers in the rock, distinctive layering patterns that occur only during massive wave events. The waves that created these markers would have been hundreds of feet high, powerful enough to carry a massive wooden vessel up the slopes of a mountain and deposit it at high elevation as the waters withdrew. But the most haunting evidence came from a small cavity near the bow of the structure. Inside, researchers found human remains, partially fossilized bones belonging to at least 3 individuals. The bones showed no signs of violent death, suggesting these people had died of natural causes while aboard the vessel. Genetic analysis of the remains revealed something unexpected. The individuals came from distinct genetic lineages, representing different populations from across the ancient Near East and beyond. The scientific community struggled to reconcile what the evidence suggested. If this was indeed an ancient vessel designed to survive a catastrophic flood, it represented a level of engineering sophistication that challenged our understanding of ancient capabilities. The structure wasn't just large, it was intelligently designed, incorporating principles of naval architecture that wouldn't be rediscovered for thousands of years. The dimensions of the vessel matched more than just biblical descriptions. Ancient flood narratives from dozens of cultures described similar structures. The Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh spoke of a vessel 10 dozen cubits in each dimension. The Hindu Matsya Purana described a boat large enough to hold all creatures, and Chinese flood legends mentioned a giant ship that preserved humanity during a world-encompassing deluge. The Turkish site provided physical evidence that these weren't just myths or allegories. The flood had been real, and someone had known it was coming far enough in advance to build a vessel of this magnitude. The construction would have required years of labor, thousands of workers, and resources gathered from vast distances. Someone had organized this effort, planned every detail, and successfully saved whatever or whoever was aboard. But questions remained that science couldn't easily answer. How did the builders know the flood was coming? The level of preparation suggested foreknowledge, either through observation of long-term climate patterns or through some other means of prediction. The placement of the vessel before the flood implies it was positioned deliberately, perhaps in a location calculated to give the best chance of survival. The advanced metallurgy, the sophisticated engineering, the chemical knowledge required to produce sealants and coatings. All of this pointed to a civilization far more capable than history had recorded. If a society this advanced existed 5,000 years ago, what happened to them? Why did their knowledge disappear? The flood that the vessel survived may have been the same event that destroyed the civilization that built it. As research continued, one final discovery emerged that cast everything in a different light. During excavation of the stern section, researchers found a sealed chamber that had remained untouched since the vessel came to rest. Inside, carved into stone tablets and preserved in clay vessels, were records. The inscriptions weren't in any known ancient language, but linguistic analysis revealed structural similarities to Proto-Sumerian and early Egyptian hieroglyphics, languages that emerged in the centuries after the flood event. The tablets appeared to be instructions, technical specifications, and navigational records. They documented the construction of the vessel, the gathering of animals and supplies, and the duration of the voyage. According to the translated passages, the vessel had been at sea for over 5 months, drifting in waters that covered all the high hills under the whole heaven. The records described the gradual recession of the waters, the sending out of birds to search for dry land, and the final grounding of the ship on the mountains of Ararat, the ancient name for the region where the Turkish site is located. But the tablets contained something else: warnings. They spoke of a civilization that had corrupted the earth through its arrogance and had been destroyed as a consequence. The builders of the vessel had been preserving more than just human and animal life. They had been preserving knowledge, seeds, and the possibility of rebuilding. The vessel was a time capsule, designed to carry the essentials of civilization through a catastrophe and allow humanity to start again. The truth that terrifies isn't just that the flood was real or that the ark existed. It's the implication that humanity has been through this before, that we've built great civilizations, achieved remarkable knowledge, and lost it all to catastrophic events. The Turkish site suggests we're not the first advanced human society. We're the latest in a cycle that has repeated itself throughout prehistory. And if the cycle has repeated before, there's no guarantee it won't repeat again. The ancient builders saw it coming and prepared. They left us evidence of their solution, carved in stone and preserved in the highlands of Turkey. The question that remains is simple and chilling. Are we paying attention? The site in Turkey has been opened. The truth is no longer buried beneath stone and ice. What we do with this knowledge, whether we learn from it or ignore it, may determine whether our civilization survives the next catastrophe or joins the ancient builders as another forgotten chapter in humanity's long, repeating story.